Hello, Zuko here. Now, I don't know that much about horror books. I'm trying to actually get into them now because I've realized YA horror is generally not a genre I enjoy because it always like teeters on the edge of being scary and then just like pulls back. But having said that, I'm going to give you my recommendations for YA horror in case that's your thing. Not so spooky horror books, in case that's your thing. The few adult horror books I've read, in case that's your thing. We're gonna start out really tame, okay? We're gonna start out really tame and we're gonna go with the not so spooky Halloween month reads. The first one I have here is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is a, I guess, nod to Crimson Peaks. This is a kind of haunted house book that is a mansion and then like a parallel world where the mansion is occupied by something else. And while I didn't love this book my first read through, I do want to read through it again because I don't know, I kind of got bored. It has, I believe, silent protagonist and just not a lot of characters that I felt I cared about. But I know a lot of people love this book, and if you want a not so spooky Halloween book, I think this would be a good one. We also have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This book is about a child whose family is killed by a serial killer, I believe. And while the serial killer is up serial killing, the kid, as a toddler, just toddles out of the house and down to the local graveyard where he is raised by ghosts. And this was a really fun book. It's a very Gaiman book, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I have this one. Then there is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. You've probably heard of this book. This is a like queer ghost story, I guess. There's a kid kind of trying to prove to his family that he's a real boy, and he finds the ghost of his like school bully, and he's like, oh shit, you're not supposed to be dead. So he kind of like helps try to find out what happened to this kid. This is a like really sweet, wholesome book that everybody loves, and I think it's a good, not so spooky Halloween book. Then I have These Witches Won't Burn and This Coven Won't Break, both by Isabel Sterling. These are fun, witchy, queer books. They are, I believe the main characters are lesbians, and these were just like fun books about some teen witches kind of having relationship drama and other stuff. And they're not really spooky, but they are pretty fun and maybe a little bit stressful at times, but not scary, I would say. And lastly, of course, I can't go through a Halloween video without mentioning Coraline by Neil Gaiman. If you do not know somehow the story of Coraline, this is a story about a girl whose family moves into this house and she finds a door that she can't unlock. And when she does manage to unlock it, it kind of leads her to an alternate reality of this house again, just like Gallant. But in this reality, there is a whole world that's kind of like made to entertain her. So she has like a mother and father who pay more attention to her and like so much stuff that's just like tailored to her interests. And the mom's like, you can stay here forever, but I get to sew buttons into your eyes. And Coraline's like, no. And stuff ensues. If you've seen the movie, I really recommend the book. If you've only read the book, I recommend watching the movie. Next, we'll just do my favorite YA horror. Starting off with House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This is my favorite book I read in 2021. And if you haven't seen me rave about this book, this is a book that follows three sisters who one day just disappeared, walking home on New Year's Eve. The clock struck midnight, their parents kissed, and when they looked back, all three of their daughters were gone. And exactly a month later, they all returned, but there was something weird about them. All of their hair starts turning white and their eyes start turning black, and doctors are convinced it's a trauma response, but their parents are not. This book was like genuinely spooky, and I loved it. So this is my first recommendation. Then there is The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. This book follows a girl who I believe is named Logan. Yes. And her two dads, who are TV ghost hunters, and they go back to their hometown, Snakebite. And it's a kind of rednecky town where they don't really love them homosexuals like her dad. And just before they arrive, a boy goes missing. So the boy's, I believe, girlfriend is trying to find him. And then these ghost hunters come and they're trying to find out what happened. And it's just a whole sapphic ordeal. And there's some spooky things going on in this book. Then I have A Lesson in Vengeance. This is a YA dark academia. I never know how to say it, and I always rhyme it with macadamia, the nuts. So that's fun. By Victoria Lee. This is again, queer horror, which if you've ever seen the movie Like Minds, I believe it's called Murderous Intent in North America. It has Eddie Redmayne and Tom Sturridge in it. If you've ever seen that movie, this book is like really reminded me of Like Minds. This follows a girl who goes to this like prestigious boarding school thing and meets a girl who is at least currently like a bestseller. She's written one book and now she is here to try and write her second book, and they kind of get entangled in each other and this mythos from the area, and a bunch of bullshit ensues. And I really liked this book, and I'm really excited to see if Victoria Lee ever writes any more weird horror books. So I recommend this one. Then if you love disappointment, I would say Wilder Girls by Rory Powers. This is like some kind of like, it was sold as like body horror-y, kind of foresty horror, I don't even know, like boarding school book where these girls are stuck on this island at this boarding school where they've been exposed to something and now they're experiencing a lot of fucked up body horror. I found this book incredibly underwhelming and not very good, but a lot of people liked it. It's also sapphic. Yeah, I don't recommend it, but maybe you'll like it. I also have Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. This is a book about a girl whose mom has never told her like anything about her family. She doesn't know anything about her mom's family at all. She's always been like isolated from them, and she finds a way to contact her grandmother. So she does. Her mom's not happy about that, and she runs away to go meet her grandmother, and weird things start to happen, including her seeing herself get burned alive in a field. This was a way better book than Wilder Girls, and it is also sapphic, so I recommend this one. And lastly, we have Claire Legrand's Sawkill Girls. This is a small town mystery book in which I believe a bunch of young women start to go missing on this small town called Sawkill on an island, because everything's on an island, and some other girls who are trying to kind of figure out the mystery as one of their sisters goes missing. It's a whole thing. This book has a asexual character, which I really love because we don't get enough asexual rep in anything. So yeah, this is also super queer because all of these are super queer. I don't tend to keep a lot of not queer YA. And lastly, we have adult books. And I haven't read a lot of adult horror, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm just going to tell you the ones I've read and see if maybe you're interested in reading them. Firstly, we have a book that came out this year that I really loved, and that is Sundial by Catriona Ward. This is a like weird familial mystery. A woman is staying with her horrible abusive husband to raise her 2 daughters, and she kind of has enough and takes the one daughter that the husband favors and goes back to the area she kind of grew up in, this weird, everyone assumed it was a cult, but it was a research area for behavioral problems in dogs, and she takes her kid there, and you've got like a creepy kid and a scary family dynamic, and you get flashbacks to like the mother growing up there. And yeah, I will warn you that in this book there is animal abuse and the dog dies, but aside from that, this was a good book. Then we have The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. This is an isolation horror book about a woman who goes down into this cave because it's future dystopia. There are caves that people get paid a lot of money to go into and explore and get resources from. And this woman is chosen for this expedition, and she is alone in there. She thought, I think, that there would be a team and that there'd be a team of people on the surface helping her, but it's just her and this woman named M, who is the voice on the other side, and she starts to see weird things in the dark, and M is like very insistent that she keeps going in. And yeah, this was a very good, well-written book, though I found it kind of long, and I'm not sure I got it. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book, so I do recommend it if you want like a good creepy isolation horror. Then we have Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. Apparently this is like a horror comedy. I don't remember it being a comedy, but live your life, I guess. This is a story that follows dual timelines, one being like 100 years ago at this boarding school of 2 girls who were like stung to death by a bunch of wasps, I think. And it follows present day with 3 girls who, one of them wrote a book based on the events of 100 years ago, and 1 or 2 of them are actresses who are going to be starring in the movie adaptation of that story. And weird shit starts going on with wasps. So if you don't like bugs, this isn't a book for you, but if you do like bugs and you do like sapphic horror, this book's for you. Oh, Luminous Dead is also sapphic. Then we have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This was my first Grady Hendrix I read, and while sometimes I feel like he tries really hard to make things like gross out creepy with like over the top scenes with bugs and stuff, I thought that this was a really good book. But yeah, this is a book about a Southern women's book club, and they start to think that maybe there's a man in the neighborhood who is real sketchy and they don't like him, but as their husbands join the book club, they kind of stop being able to talk about it to themselves, and the husbands kind of pull them all away from each other so that they can't, I don't know, have thoughts of their own. I liked this book and I had a lot of fun with it, so if you want to read like a vampire weird horror-y book, this does have bug horror in it again, so if you don't like bugs, don't read this. But aside from that, yeah, but again, there is a dog, and the dog is not alive by the last page of the book, just in case you need to know. And lastly, we have Night Film by Marisha Pessel. I can't really explain what this book is about. This was my first adult horror, I think, and I'm not sure if it's like a horror or a thriller or what, but this takes place in a world where there was a famous director who made movies that were really hard to find. They were like really, I don't know, niche and pretentious, and his daughter dies. and then there's a mystery surrounding that, surrounding him and what happened to him and why he's not making things anymore. It was a whole thing, and I'm not sure I got this book, okay? I'm really not. But I read it, and I liked it enough to keep it. Or maybe I just, like, was confused enough to keep it because I think I have to read it again. And it also, inside the book itself, you get pages that are, like, emails or websites or whatever on what's going on. And these people trying to find out stuff. So yeah, there's this one. So those are 15 book recommendations I have, from not so spooky to YA spooky to adult horror books that I recommend you read this Halloween season if you are interested. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoy it. I'll see you whenever I do my next video.